Filipino President Rodrigo Duterte said he had signed an order placing the entire island of Luzon under a state of calamity. His move, based on a recommendation by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, was aimed at helping rescue and recovery efforts in the region, which has been devastated by 3 consecutive typhoons in recent weeks. The accumulated effects of the weather disturbances have caused severe flooding in the Cagayan Valley, where towns and cities have reportedly been turned into an ocean. It has been a tumultuous year for Turkey's economic management, with the currency crisis and interest rate volatility rattling investor confidence. The recent dismissal of the central bank governor via an overnight presidential decree and the resignation of Berat Albayrak, the Turkish finance minister and son-in-law of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, contributed to the mood of trepidation. New investors are hoping 2021 will bring an improvement to the country's economic outlook. Exchange companies in the government-controlled areas have suspended trading in the dollar and the other region currencies after the Yemeni rial hit a record low. Yemeni rial tumbled to 855 against the US dollar on Wednesday, breaking a previous record 850 in September. In city of Al-Mukalla, the capital of the southeastern province of Hadramaut, money changers turned away people who wanted to exchange the Saudi riyal or the dollar, citing orders from their bosses to stop buying or selling foreign currencies. Pfizer Incorporation said it had offered to provide Brazil with millions of doses of a COVID-19 vaccine in the first half of 2021, amid evidence the coronavirus is spreading more rapidly in South America's largest country. The company said in a statement, Pfizer made a proposal to the Brazilian government in line with deals we closed in other countries, including in Latin America, that would permit the vaccination of millions of Brazilians in the first half, subject to regulatory approval. Brazil has the third worst outbreak of coronavirus in the world after the US and India. The US showed off a literally star-studded pavilion for Dubai's upcoming Expo 2020, complete with a replica SpaceX rocket body beside it. 2 fog machines swirled smoke around the replica, trying to lend the impression it just landed at the still under construction Expo site in Dubai's southern desert. But what will be a major draw at this world's fair remains in question, as the world struggles through the coronavirus pandemic and global air travel, a key industry for Dubai, struggles to take off. In the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, a recession, political instability, and lingering effects from the August 4th Beirut port explosion, women and girls in Lebanon are left increasingly vulnerable. Roughly half of the 300,000 people displaced by the port explosion are women and girls, who are more susceptible to gender-based violence than their displaced male counterparts, according to United Nations Population Fund (UNFPA). As Lebanon's economic problems deepen, domestic abuse has been on the rise. A coronavirus lockdown saw a further spike in reported abuse cases. Along with the news of the death of senior Al-Qaeda operative Abu Muhammad al-Masri came the news that his daughter Maryam, who was also a target in the operation, was being groomed for a leadership role in the terrorist organization. Maryam was the widow of Hamza bin Laden, the son of one of Al-Qaeda founders, Osama bin Laden, the AP reported. The younger bin Laden was killed last year, and Maryam had been living in Iran. Terrorist organizations seem to predominantly be made up of men and almost exclusively are headed by men. Of the 27 individuals on the United States FBI's most wanted terrorism list, only 2 are women. Fresh from the success of creating the world's largest free trade region, China's President Xi Jinping will be among the speakers on Thursday, holding an Asia-Pacific virtual summit that US President Donald Trump had decided to skip. Last week, 15 countries signed the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and the China-backed accord, which excludes the United States, will loom large over the virtual summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC), hosted by Malaysia. A dozen of APEC's 21 members signed up to RCEP. Trump's absence follows his defeat in the November 3rd U.S. presidential election, though he has yet to concede a transfer of government to President-elect Joe Biden. After nearly 2 years of scrutiny, corporate upheaval, and a standoff with global regulators, Boeing Company won approval on Wednesday from the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration to fly its 737 MAX jet again after 2 fatal disasters. The FAA detailed software upgrades and training changes Boeing must make in order for it to resume commercial flights after 20 months grounding, the longest in commercial aviation history. The 737 MAX crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia killed 346 people within 5 months in 2018 and 2019 and triggered a hailstorm of investigations, freed U.S. leadership in global aviation, and cost Boeing some $20 billion. Government spokesperson Gabriel Attal said the French government will continue to support airline company Air France KLM if necessary. Attal, holding a news conference after a cabinet meeting, was asked about a report that Air France KLM was discussing plans to raise another 6 billion euros, which is $7.1 billion, from its 2 government shareholders and other investors. The company received 10.4 billion euros in state-backed bailouts from France and the Netherlands earlier this year to help it cope with the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. India's federal government will regulate content on video streaming platforms, including global services such as Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Walt Disney's Hotstar, as part of new rules announced earlier this week. Until now, content on video streaming platforms was not regulated by India's Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Earlier this year, more than a dozen local and global streaming services, including Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, and Hotstar, had signed a code for self-regulation. Australia's parliament will launch an inquiry into media ownership, a prominent senator said, after more than 500,000 people signed a petition demanding a probe into Rupert Murdoch's news dominance. The online petition attracted a record number of signatories after being launched on October 12th by former Labour Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, a frequent target of newspapers controlled by Murdoch's News Corporation. The Australian arm of the New York headquartered company is the country's largest media organization, owning papers in nearly every major city as well as cable television networks and magazines. An Afghan journalist working for a US-funded radio network was killed in a blast in southern Afghanistan just days after former television presenter was murdered in Kabul. The death of Radio Liberty reporter Alias Dai in Himland province, the center of intense fighting between government forces and the Taliban in recent weeks, was condemned by the presidency as yet another attack on press freedom in the war-torn country. Targeted killings of prominent figures, including journalists, clerics, politicians, and riot activists, have also become more common in recent months. YouTube, owned by Alphabet's incorporation Google, said it had fixed a glitch that led to a worldwide outage of the video streaming service. DownDetector.com, a website which monitors outages, showed nearly 286,000 incidents of people reporting issues with the service. The issue started with users complaining about trouble in watching videos on the platform. Twitter said it was rolling out tweets which disappear after 24 hours, joining rival social platforms in offering ephemeral messages. The new fleets, which had been tested in several countries in recent months, are for sharing momentary thoughts and aim to bring in users who want to avoid having their comments become permanent fixtures, according to a Twitter blog post. Those new to Twitter found fleets to be an easier way to share what's on their mind.